Welcome all, wherever you may be in different parts of the country. It's been great fun watching you all join in. There's 107 of us at the moment, and well done, Hugh Kirkbride. I've logged you as the 100th member to log in today, so we've got a first good century of the summer for us. Some of you are in faraway places. I know Christopher Samford, I think, was joining us from Seattle. I was talking to him earlier on. I hope the streets are quiet there in Washington State way, Chris. Welcome to Morley. I'm not sure, Morley, whether you're in Brussels or London, but a big welcome to you and to everyone. This is a first for the Cricket Society, a Zoomed meeting. A lot of organisations are doing this. We're planning more. We hope it goes well. We've had a bit of a rehearsal over the last few days. If it doesn't go perfectly, I'm sure you'll bear with us, and please join us next time as well. If by any chance you're not a member of the Cricket Society, please join us. If you go to cricketsociety.com, you'll find out how to do it. You get change from £20, anyone who's not a member. We don't at the moment have income from sponsorship or raffles, so we are dependent on subscriptions. We want to continue to maintain the services we provide and indeed expand them, not least online and of course in our publications. If you are a member, please do your best this lockdown and beyond to recruit a friend. This will help us to reach more people who follow cricket as we seek to maintain and expand both our membership and the products that we give. I'm going to hand over in a minute to Stephen Chalke, who's going to be in conversation with our president, John Barclay. They, of course, need no or very little introduction from me, and I'm not going to give you one. It did occur to me yesterday that some of you might not have been at meetings where John, for example, has spoken in recent years, and will remember him as a good cricketer for Sussex, great administrator, former president of the MCC, quite a stock of hair, and he's still got there. One of the two, Stephen or John, haven't had a haircut since 1980. I think we worked it out as earlier, but it's I don't think it's John, but he's still got plenty of hair. So I'll pass you over to Stephen, and let's enjoy the afternoon. Stephen, please.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I've had plenty of haircuts since 1980. I just haven't paid for them. Right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. And good to see you, John. Not that I can see you at the moment. I can only see Nigel. Are you there, John?
I'm there, Stephen. I'm here.
Good.
I'm here. I'm holding the fort at home.
Right. Well, before we start, as everybody's going to spend the whole afternoon peering at it, you better explain to us what's hanging from that girder up on the ceiling there.
Yeah, I'll tell you what it is. It's picture frames, because I'm in a little studio, which is my wife Renara's studio, where she does her painting, and she paints portraits in watercolour, and just dangling up there are sort of picture frames and frames for paintings. So a bit unusual, and it would take a bit of guessing, but that's what's going on. And right in the background are one or two watercolours which you can't quite see because I'm in the way. There we are. So there we are. That's the mystery.
Well, let's talk about the test match to start with, John, because we've all been deprived of cricket for so long, and then we had this treat of a game at Southampton. So first game of the season, you're straight into a test match. That's strange, isn't it?
It couldn't have been more unusual. And oddly, although it was July, the conditions right at the beginning, first day when there wasn't much play, and the second day were very much more akin to a sort of muggy, overcast, slightly damp day in perhaps May or early June. So it was very much pre-season stuff for the players who wouldn't have had match practice, although of course they'd been practicing very hard for the match. But there's a world of a difference, in my view, to net practice the net practice compared with proper match practice. And to be absolutely honest, it showed, but it produced the most wonderful game of cricket on what, congratulations to Southampton, on what to me looked to be a very, very good test match pitch or cricket pitch, encouraging all sorts of cricket, batsmen, faster bowlers, medium fast bowlers, and indeed spin, because it was clearly quite dry as well. So it had a bit of everything, but of course, Stephen, it didn't really have too much crowd noise.
No, well, now before we come on to the crowd, tell me a bit more about what is, when you say it looked a bit rusty at beginning of season type of cricket, what were you spotting that made you think that?
Well, I just remember early season matches. It takes time for both batsmen and bowlers to get into their rhythm, to get into their stride in a season. And I thought it was very apparent that the England batting, particularly batting first in tricky conditions, never quite found its rhythm, never found its true potential, and therefore fell, 80, perhaps 100 runs short of what they were worth. And that made all the difference in the end. The West Indian bowlers, by contrast, did seem to come, if you like, out of the traps extremely well, and particularly bowled an excellent, in my view, an excellent length for the conditions. They didn't bowl too short or just back of a length. They bowled that slightly fuller English style length, which asks questions, particularly with a bit of swing, a little bit of movement, and it did catch many of the England batsmen. It caught them out a little bit in what I would call an early season batting exercise, in which they didn't really find their rhythm. And indeed, the England batting, although improved in the second innings, didn't quite find its rhythm there. It was slightly saved towards the end, which made it respectable, made a reasonable, if not enough, target to set the West Indies. But it was a fascinating game, intriguing match. Could have gone either way. I think the one other thing. Yes, sorry, Stephen. Yes.
Yeah, no. Let's just switch for a second, because the umpires had quite an active match as well.
Yeah.
And is there a sense that umpires need to get into a season? Is dropping an umpire into the middle of a test match, having not stood in the middle for 4 months, quite challenging for them?
Yes. Well, we'd have to ask the umpires that. But I do remember back in the day when I was playing, that umpires frequently used to say to me, David Shepherd, particularly Ray Julian, I remember, saying how very useful they found it, having a match or two, maybe at Cambridge, perhaps at Oxford, perhaps a second 11 game, a minor counties game, just to get into the rhythm, even if it was counting the balls from the stones from one pocket to the other in the old-fashioned sense. It's all rhythm, you know. And in actual fact, I think Richard Illingworth and Richard Kettleborough, I think it was, who are very fine umpires and very, very good people. They had a tough match anyway, because there's so many decisions to make. And they made them to the very best of their ability. And Stephen, I think, and for everyone watching, always remember, when we watch it on television, even in fast motion, before they slow it down, the game happens 5 times quicker than that. It's so quick. You know, if you watch a Federer serve at Wimbledon on television, you sort of think you can get it back. If you're actually at Wimbledon, lucky enough to be at Wimbledon, you can't believe that anybody ever gets it back. Well, you know, it's a bit the same with cricket. These fast bowlers who are jolly fast, you know, Archer and Wood bowled very fast, and the West Indians bowled very fast. It happens so quickly. So it's very tough for the umpires. I think they have to get into rhythm. I think they did very well, and I didn't think they lost their confidence despite decisions being overturned by the third umpire, Michael Goff, who I thought had a terrific game. Gosh, who would, hands up, I can't see everyone, who would want to be the third umpire? I would. That's a tough role. And Michael was so calm and so composed. Will you run it back a little bit, please? And so polite. Would you run it back a little bit, run a little bit forward? And I thought he had a star role. And in the end, Stephen, actually, you pointed this out to me yesterday. In actual fact, I think in the end, all the correct decisions just about came to pass.
Yes, I think so. Yes. Well, let's before we go on to the lack of a crowd, which I do want to talk about, let's digress into your career, fast bowling. You opened the batting quite a lot for Sussex, so you played against them all in that period when all the best overseas players were running in full steam in county games.
Yes.
Who were the ones who were the hardest to face for you?
Oh, goodness me. I think probably the very first encounter of real pace and superb bowler, I think was Andy Roberts. I think Andy Roberts would be the tip-top clever bowler too, tip-top bowler. And when we faced Andy Roberts, we didn't have a helmet. We had a thigh pad. And a box and no arm guard. You know, we weren't going out in a suit of armour. So I suppose that made it a little bit different. Nobody
it probably didn't accept your email address, you see. Can you find it?
Somebody's having a conversation in here.
Hello?
Hello?
Are we there?
Yeah, we're
Are
back.
we there again? So I'll go back to so Andy Roberts, was certainly very fine bowler. The real accuracy of Richard Hadley, because he never let you away somehow. And against what I call average player, let's call myself average player rather than superb player, I was never really able to get on top of them. They bowled with great accuracy and pace. And then just thinking of a different type of bowler, Mike Proctor. Mike Proctor was both fast and swung the ball in with this very odd action. And he was a really difficult handful. And he ran in with hostile intent, I would say. So he was quite intimidating while not being particularly tall, like a Joel Garner, but he ran in and bowled these big in-swingers. So I used to find slightly complicated bowlers a bit trickier. But yes, you're so right, Stephen. In those days, we did, and I'm so proud to have at least had a go against these people. We did play against then, I would say, the best bowlers, the best cricketers actually, overseas cricketers in the world. And that was a great honour, because if you were sort of average cricketer, not likely to play international cricket, that was your one chance of having a go against the very best in some conditions that weren't always all that easy. And every now and then, if I stick into my memory, one had a good day or a good half day.
Was there on occasion when you were completely blown away as a team by Wayne Daniel?
Gosh, Wayne Daniel. I mean, at least he wasn't complicated. He was very fast, and he ran into bowl down the hill at Hove in a Benson and Hedges match. I'm going for 1978. It was a Benson and Hedges qualifying match in May, very cold, green pitch. Mike Brearley put us in bat, and Daniel raced down the hill. And I'm guessing he took about, let's say he took about 6 for 17.
Well, now, John, I'm all set up here. I've got a computer behind my screen ready to contradict you. I've got the score open now. JRT Barclay bowled Daniel 17. Top score in the innings.
And about 9th player to get out.
Daniel, 9 overs, 6 for 17.
Oh, I wasn't far off, was I?
You were exact.
And he bowled really fast. And I remember I opened the batting with Gian Mendes. Put me right, Stephen, when I get this wrong. I opened the batting with Gian Mendes. Gian, who was a fine player of quick bowling, superb wristy player. And I think he cut a ball early on, possibly the first over, and was caught at cover point, possibly for naught. You have to put me right there, but possibly for naught. And then into the battle came Stuart Story, making his debut for Sussex from Surrey, of course, coming in at number 3 to sort of rescue Sussex. And he got a ball that hit his bat handle, then his head, and then no helmet, then his head, and it cannoned up to cover point, which I think might have been Norman Featherstone or someone like that, who caught the catch. So Story then just about staggered off the pitch, out first ball for naught, and he then was taken to hospital to check on his head. And as he walked out, one rather unsympathetic member of the Sussex crowd, which was rare for Sussex, shouted, "Oi, Story, why don't you go back and play for Surrey?" A little bit unkind.
Next man in is Peter Graves.
Oh God! Oh, that was awful. Now Peter came in next, and we were battling away. We did quite well for a bit, for about 2 overs. And Peter was actually facing Mike Selvey from the sea end. Basically like a spinner compared to Wayne Daniel. And he got a really mean, awful ball which reared off the length, hit him on his finger. And I walked down to see Peter and I said, "How is it, Peter?" And he was trying to get his glove off. And he got his glove off and his poor finger was in a frightful state and all over the place. And I said, "Peter, I don't think that looks all that good. And I fear you might have to go and see how Stuart Story is getting on in hospital." And which indeed he did. And yes. It was, and poor Peter never recovered from that broken finger. But ironically, it was Mike Selvey, who was a very good bowler, but not as fast, obviously, who actually hit the finger so hard. It wasn't Wayne Daniel. Wayne Daniel did the rest of the damage. And I remember I was so keen, later, I'm still in somehow, later in the innings, getting back and across bravely and heroically. And I got too far across and in fact ended up having my leg stump extracted rather than my off stump. And that was the end of me. And I remember Ian Gould was wicket-keeping for Middlesex before he joined Sussex, obviously, and he was very kind as I walked off, and he did say something along the lines, there might have been some slightly dodgy language in the middle, along the lines of what a very brave innings that was, except he might have used an alternative word to very.
Oh, is that the worst session of cricket you've taken part in?
I think one of the most dramatic. But Stephen, the funny thing is, I look back on it now, sitting looking at the garden today, and I feel so honoured to have been part of it. Because Wayne Daniel running down it's become a story, running down the hill at home, really fast bowling, and I just feel honoured to have played a part. And I was only about, how old? I was only about 24. I was sort of seemed early days at the time. I was quite early days. And of course, you're less frightened when you're young. Experience is a dodgy thing with fear. It tends to exaggerate fear. When you're inexperienced and a young whippersnapper, like being a little child or whatever, fear doesn't cross your path quite so strongly. So honestly, truly, I was not brave because I don't think I suffered fear during that little spell, other than the fear of getting out, which I suffered all the time.